Where do you think are the lowest hanging fruit when it comes to AI for banking for all? There's a new generation of digital banks and new digital banking licenses that are coming up, which are adopting this phygital approach, which is not pure digital, but not heavy branch led banking, solving for cost, but also solving for touch and deeply leveraging technology. Do you think India is ready for it? Or India needs this kind of new banking model?
SavingsTech is the way to go. And when people ask me what is the next frontier, I'm like, SavingsTech.
You see that opportunity.
Huge.
So India can create its own playbook.
Which is the challenge I feel. My request to all the Fintech has always been, do not focus on technology, focus on the consumer.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Spice Money Chaupal. We have with us today one of India's foremost fintech policy leaders, one of the architects of India's digital public infrastructure, Mr. Rajesh Bansal. Rajeshji, welcome on Spice Money Chaupal. This is a podcast that we run regularly with visionaries and people who are shaping digital India. It's such a pleasure to have you on this show, sir. I have had the opportunity to meet you, and the first time I came to the RBI Innovation Hub, of which you're a founding CEO, I was intrigued by the line I read over there, enabling frictionless finance for 1 billion Indians. And it just goes to show the vision that, you started RBI Innovation Hub with. Speak to us about that, sir. Enabling frictionless finance for 1 billion Indians. How did that happen and what did that mean?
So thank you, Dilip, for having me on your podcast. So imagine, May 21, through a competitive process, I become the CEO. And I ask, what is the mandate? They're like, go figure out. I'm like, go figure out? So it was real startup mode.
Within RBI, a real startup.
Yeah, within RBI. I used to call it the RBI startup. Go figure out. And then next couple of, meetings, board meetings, they're like, what happened? I'm like, and then I met the governor. He said, Rajesh, you are 6 weeks old. What are you doing? I'm like, okay, I think I need to figure out what to do. So I had 3 people who just joined, young people, 25. I said, you go to the field and figure out what is not working. Because given my experience of Aadhaar, financial inclusion, I wanted to figure out what is not working. So the first day, the debrief call, I can't forget, was like, I think there is a serious problem. They said, the farmer says it takes about 2 months to get a loan. I'm like, how can it be? And then, obviously, they were not queued into Aadhaar, eKYC, everything. They were there for 1 week. Interviewed number of farmers, the story was the same. 6 weeks, 5 visits on an average, and 5% out of pocket for a 1 lakh rupee loan. Then they came back, we did brainstorming to understand what is wrong. I sent them to another district. I realized something is really broken. Given that India has built the best digital rails, the world talks about, we have not solved for the Aam Aadmi, and that is 120 million farmers. That is where we started working on, how to solve for it. And I remember that I gave my team a challenge. It used to take 6 weeks, we'll do it in less than 5 minutes. They were like, what is wrong with boss? So coming back to frictionless finance, so this went on for about a year. We had a 3-line, mission statement. In one meeting, I just uttered out that it is like you have to do frictionless finance. And my comms team jumped after that, said that should be our tagline. And honestly, it has worked so well. I am so happy that, Governor Shaktikant Das started using that term every time. In G20, our stall was famous as frictionless finance. So that is the term, because that is what echoes with everyone. Those 2 words, I'm sure you talk to anyone, when I have spoken about it in any conference, I ask people, do you understand? Do you have a problem with your provider? Yeah, I said, that is the friction. Whether you are a digital user, you are a physical user, So that's how, and I'm so glad it's become a mainstream term. Yeah.
Wonderful, sir. It's amazing how, within RBI, you were able to bring this concept of building an innovation hub. And when we talk about a regulator and we talk about innovation, generally there's a view that, the two may not go together,
Yeah.
right? How do you see regulation and innovation coexisting?
So see, regulators of today, whether in India or globally, have to be innovative. But that's a very motherhood statement. The fact is, you know, innovation has to first of all sit outside the central bank. I advise number of countries on this because the central bank DNA and the wiring is very different. I've been a central banker for 25 years. You think how the industry will misuse a privilege. In innovation is different. How do you do new things? And regulator, being the regulator's baby, you can work with the regulator to see how do you build the guardrails. So that is why innovation by a central bank is not an option today. It is a necessity, and any central bank that doesn't, focus on innovation.
So, and in your experience, if you look at the Reserve Bank of India and you look at the RBI Innovation Hub initiative, do you think it can become a bridge between innovators and the regulator? Do you think the hub itself can become a bridge between the two? Because, like in a sandboxing environment that RBI encourages, is there an opportunity for innovators and regulator to work together? Because sometimes it seems like at a conflict, right? Where, like you said, you have to put guardrails, but at the same time, you have to create frictionless journeys. You have to ensure laws are not taken softly. So can the two work together, and can the innovation hub become a bridge between innovators and the regulator?
Exactly. So there were three pillars of innovation I used to talk about: process innovation, policy innovation, product innovation. And policy innovation is exactly what you are saying, Dilip, acting as an interlocutor between the fintechs and the regulator. I'll give a small example. Take a fintech to RBI.
Yeah.
The language the fintech guys speak
Yeah.
is not necessarily understood by the regulator. And then the regulator speaks, the fintechs are like, what is this?
Yes.
So you need something like the innovation hub in countries to ensure they can, be a bridge.
So I can only say that when I came to the RBI office in Bangalore, it felt like a startup. And
Thank you.
when you go to a regulator, you're always a little uptight, you're a little nervous, you don't know what to say, what not to say, you're a little guarded.
Yeah.
But coming to the innovation hub, it felt so much like any other startup with innovation. And I think it's a great initiative that you started at the RBI. And the idea is now, how do we grow that going forward? So let's stay with this point of frictionless finance. Of course, as a country, we've now moved to frictionless payments. 1 billion transactions on UPI a day. We are moving there. Being one of the core architects of this digital public infrastructure, sir, when we think ahead, DPI 2.0, 3.0, from frictionless payments to frictionless finance, how do you see this journey?
So see, again, India is the best placed country in the global north and south to make frictionless finance happen. What are the key ingredients? We have frictionless payments, we have digital ID, eKYC, e-sign, DigiLocker, everything. What we need is what is under the hood in banking has to change. Unfortunately, most of my banker friends, they still have legacy IT systems, and unfortunately, a lot of them still have legacy thinking. Again, like the central bankers' wiring, a banker's wiring is very different. You have to understand. And I used to keep telling fintech, you have to understand a banker. If you are a banker, your wiring would also change. So risk, compliance, all that. So what we need is to ensure that manufacturers like banks focus on manufacturing and fintechs focus on distribution because they understand the consumer, and that is what has to happen. The analogy is clear in UPI. When we launch UPI, for about 3 years prior to that, 5 years, you're trying to tell the banks, please focus on payments as a core business. Do not think it's a burden. Unfortunately, other than cards, they could never think beyond this. So UPI launch, it had TPAP as an underlying core. I don't know whether you are aware, the Beam launch. In demonetization, I was helping the government on a pro bono basis. Look at what needs to be done. And when we conceptualized Beam, obviously along with Nandan and NPCI team, the fact was that private sector TPAP was an essential element. But think about it today. If it was only an interbank thing, would it have gone where it has gone? Would it have the distribution, creativity of Phone Pay, Amazon Pay, and everything else? So, and obviously VC money to burn, which banks can't do. So we
sir,
need that.
Yeah. So, sir, you're saying what happened in payments? How does it happen in banking?
Yeah.
And because banks have a huge responsibility when it comes to financial inclusion, credit, driving savings, formal investment. So I think, sir, there's a big, like we've seen a digital payment revolution in the country. Do you see an opportunity for a digital banking revolution to unfold, and what could be the building blocks for that?
So let me understand clearly. Digital banking is a very open term. What do you have in mind, Dilip?
Let's put it this way: use of technology. And before we started, you said we were speaking about AI, right? Now you said banks have a certain mindset; they have legacy systems and things like that. When you think about digitization and technology and use of AI, can we reimagine banking in a very different way? And so one of the things you mentioned to me before we started the podcast, that you are customer obsessed. You're consumer first. You've designed some of the leading platforms of our country, keeping the consumer at the center. How do we reimagine banking using technology and AI, keeping the customer at the center? That's what I mean by when I say digital banking revolution.
How we can do, we can get into the plumbing of it. But the most important thing that has to be there is understanding what the consumer needs. You may think I'm giving you a roundabout answer. The fact is, today's technology stack is not a big thing. You have to understand what the consumer needs and design process flows and the journeys in such a way that it is truly frictionless. Once we do that, I am telling you, I'm not a great fan of financial literacy. Consumers will go figure out. If there is a pain, if you can give an Uber driver a loan of 50,000 rupees instantly and using the Uber driving data as an underwriting alternate data, it's sorted. So we as fintechs and financial sector have to not see technology as technology exists, now what do I do? Look at what the consumer needs and build the journeys according to that.
So are you seeing the future that we're all using apps? In everyday apps, can we embed banking, like credit and other things? Can it be embedded in our everyday apps, like Uber and all you mentioned? Is that one way to think about future of banking or future of frictionless finance?
It has to be done, but not necessarily in an embedded, bilateral partnerships. It has to be, I should be able to choose the provider, compare the best rates, Uber driver, Swiggy driver, or an Amazon seller. Because currently the system has been built around bilateral and there are kind of hidden deals that go through it.
So I think with ULI, is that what you were trying to solve? Where you said UPI for lending could be the ULI program and the ability to unlock data, which is across the spectrum. Do you still see a future of that?
Yes.
You're not there, but do you see a future of that?
Yeah,
ULI?
exactly. That's when I conceptualized ULI. That is what the thinking was.
So what is holding it back, sir, right now?
Holding it back, again, I wouldn't want to comment on it right now because RBI and RBI is taking care of it. But navigating the government, because that is the data which fintechs can't unlock. It's no fun unlocking data through ULI, which is already available.
We need to look at new data.
new data, and I can list at least 20 of them right now. As EPFO data, and Amazon data, Myntra data, Swiggy data, Zomato data, Uber data, Rapido data, and I was talking to all of them, did some pilots, but they had their own this thing, and ENAM data. You name the ministry, I'll tell you what is the data that needs to be unlocked. So having worked in Aadhaar, made a more complicated thing like direct benefit transfer happen. It's doable. It's just that it's taking too long.
Yeah.
And I hope that it can actually fly the way UPI. Because why did UPI go where it went? Because of the way the incentive structure was built. So currently the incentive structures and data. I mean, think about it. If we can unlock EPFO data for you, Fintechs would love it. They have been crying, can you please unlock EPFO data for us? I spoke to EPFO, met them a few times, again through my personal contacts. I don't believe in writing letters. Whether it is Aadhaar or earlier days, I believe in personal connects. They did agree in principle, but anyhow, by the time I had moved out, so I'm sure some things are moving.
Yeah. No, sir, I think coming to unlocking data, because when we think about rural economy, and one of the big things that we want to see is how does rural economy grow, and MSME and agri are big part of the rural economic engine, and credit access is a big challenge for MSMEs at large. So when you talk about unlocking data, is there a way to figure out a way to use alternate data to lend to MSMEs to be able to give them access to credit which can help them grow more? Because if they contribute 40% of our GDP, then how do we drive that? Can there be a concerted program on this, sir, and how do we make it happen?
So I'll break this into two types of MSMEs. One is GST MSMEs, for which the GST data is definitely a good option. Non-GST is where there is the problem, the mom and pop stores. For that, UPI data, unfortunately, I had a discussion with about 40 Fintechs. They're like, yeah, we are doing it. I said, how much is the lending? 1,000 crores. I said, guys, I'm talking about a potential of 1 lakh crores. Why is that not happening?
But isn't that growing, sir? Like today when we read PhonePe, Paytm, BharatPe, aren't they all using their data to monetizing their data using credit providers coming in?
Maybe
or it's not enough. You're saying it's not enough.
I'm an impatient optimist. I mean, why is it taking so long? And I don't want to name entities. I've had discussions. They also are keen to leverage a bilateral relationship with a bank to lend. I'm like, unlock your data on ULI and anybody can.
Yeah.
But they are not keen. And some of them are RBI regulated entities. Talking about unlocking data, RBI can definitely push the pedal and say, and just to add, your data is important too, Dilip.
Yes.
Spice money data, merchant data is great data.
Yeah.
I spoke to ITC, their data.
Yeah.
So name it, HUL. So there is all of this data which a bank or a fintech may not be able to unlock.
So you're saying if it's put in a manner where other lenders can look at the data together and be able to build their policies and programs using that. So let me come to the point of savings. We are in an economy where we are moving from a debit economy towards a credit economy. We've seen in the US how as the economies move towards credit, it has created, cycles, which I'm sure, we are so blessed to have a regulator in India who's ensured that we stay away from those down cycles as and when they hit the world. Do you think there's a way for us to build a savings-led credit culture? Because in rural India, we see that rural households generally have a tendency to save. Is there a way we can build in technology to drive savings-led credit behavior in the country, or even productive credit for MSMEs, versus consumption credit? So how do you think we should be careful around not, as we try and move towards frictionless credit, that it should not create those cycles of huge losses that come in? And how do we leverage the deep culture of savings in our country to ensure that that doesn't happen?
No, I agree. And this has been discussed with a lot of people in boardrooms when I've been there. that are we going the US way? My take was you have to go through a cycle. So let us first at least get into a situation where 80% of Indians can get a loan the way they want, when they want, how they want. So that is true. But Dilip, what is the second part of the question?
I'm saying, sir, do you see a potential, like we talk about digital credit, and we talk about digital payments? Do you see an opportunity to drive digital savings? For example, like people are used to paying every day using
Yeah.
phones. Is there a way we can create a digital savings ecosystem?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Because I got too excited about digital savings. At RBIH, we did multiple pilots.
Yes.
And our focus was our moms were always saving in the, rice jar,
Good luck.
right? And that is how, but unfortunately, after demonetization, most of the money has come out. So we did a POC with an entity in UP where we designed frictionless saving product. We said saving should be as easy to do as saving in a rice jar. Like I haven't seen your BC interface. So digital savings. As I said, again, designing a consumer journey that if my mom used to save in a cookie jar, it should be as easy. So I haven't seen your AEPS or BC interface. But what was interesting, I myself sat down and saw the interface of the Sakhi, in UP.
Yeah.
Interestingly, and that guy is asking me, the CEO of that company, sir, you are design thinking and wireframe specialist. I said, no. I only understand the consumer. So savings was on the third screen. I said, what are you trying to do? If it is only cash out, then you are not even encouraging.
Yeah.
So can you make it as easy? And actually, it was fun designing the screen. And on the screen, having the right icons to save.
Yes.
If I, as a woman, because women, and I also wrote an op-ed on women savings is a huge missing potential in India, that if I am a woman and, there is a BC who comes to me, instead of the BC asking, कि दीदी कितना पैसा निकालना है, कि दीदी फर्स्ट मेन्यू ऑप्शन आएगा, दीदी पैसा बचाना है क्या?
हाँ.
बचाना है, and उसमें as soon as you click savings, you get options of school education, a gullak, which is, everybody understand what a gullak is, school education, medical emergencies, and let's say I set a target of 5,000 rupees.
Yeah.
Every time it should show how much has filled up.
Yeah.
Optically in a way which is understood by the consumer.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, nobody is doing it.
Yes.
No bank, no fintech that I know of.
And is that because you find that in general fintechs are focused more on urban markets, the higher end of the market where everyone's competing at the same level, but when it goes to semi-urban and rural, suddenly the interest of the fintech ecosystem, the banking ecosystem suddenly goes down because they feel there's no money at the bottom of the pyramid.
Exactly, that's the thing. And why are you missing out our investor friends?
Yes.
They also feel rural is not a great business.
Yes.
So again,
and yet, sir, you have 560 million Jan Dhan accounts with
Exactly.
over 3 lakh crores of deposits sitting on those accounts earning, I think about 3% or whatever. So it's not like there's no money. In fact, like you said, the didis who are saving every day in the jars, they've actually accumulated over time so much savings. So if you look at the savings in rural India, it's significant in the form of gold, land, otherwise. So I think the realization of this opportunity, that how we can tap into, this mass market of consumers. So as we are solving for payments, right? And as we are thinking about credit, is there an opportunity to also bring savings into the digital domain so that, it's also another data that gets unlocked, that how much savings opportunity there is on the back of which you can then build other products, right, sir?
But what I last know is that SavingsTech, let's call it SavingsTech, very, very few fintechs are trying to do, because at a fintech conference, they asked the fintech, why are you not focusing on SavingsTech? And I don't know, thanks to that or whatever, I have recently heard few of them launching.
Yes.
SavingsTech is the way to go. And when people ask me what is the next frontier,
Yeah.
I'm like SavingsTech. And
So you see that opportunity. So
huge.
So India can create its own playbook.
Yeah.
When it comes to savings-led credit kind of a model, like now you see secured credit cards out there, which are
Exactly.
helping people improve their bureau and all
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
And do you think that is something that then banks can also start feeling more confident around, lending to, whether it's MSMEs or consumers, where they can get exposed to their savings kitty, whether it's a household level and all that. Do you think it'll give confidence to banks with lower cost of funds to lend to such households or MSMEs?
They were still going for a different underwriting. I will underwrite only on an FD. So that has to change, but there is this my savings behavior talks a lot about me, exactly. So that is how one has to focus on. But I was doing some maths when you were speaking. So I don't remember what I wrote in that op-ed, but think about it. 1 crore women saving 500 rupees a month is 500 crores. Make it 10 crore women, make it 50 million, 50 crore women. Look at the numbers.
Yes.
So when banks have been struggling,
Yes.
and I wrote that op-ed at a time when banks were talking about raising money, 2-3 years back. Today again there is a savings
because
issue.
there's this whole thing about deposits and the liability side of the bank.
Yeah, but they are raising you have to. It might be a bit of a pain, but if you deliver it right, you have a huge opportunity of 1 lakh crore of credit sitting there on a monthly basis.
Yes.
So tap into that.
So digital payments, digital credit, digital savings. And just to complete the circle, sir, insurance, right? How important do you think it's for us to think about micro insurance embedded into savings and credit, especially credit, to solve for resilience? Because we see a situation where cash flow based lending has its ups and downs. Can insurance be reimagined to solve for some of that?
So you use a term where I have a bit of a challenge, embedded.
Yes.
Embedded means there is a huge amount of cross-selling. I have worked on agri insurance and other insurance product. So not embedded necessarily, but yes, micro insurance should be an essential part of this financial,
So where
package.
do you see, sir, insurance playing a role when it comes to financial inclusion and empowerment of rural economy?
I would say I focus more on life insurance because that can take care of credit events and other things. Life insurance, when we started PMJDY, it was a component. Sorry, my obsession with the word frictionless. It was not designed in a way which works for the consumer. मतलब मुझे पता भी नहीं कि मेरे को I have an insurance.
Yeah.
So some of the companies, the new age insurance companies are trying to do that, which is great. So micro insurance is an essential part of, like, I've been speaking to a lot of people on savings. Sir, वो LIC मेरा saving है ना. So this is whatever said and done, 30
LIC
years.
savings
LIC मतलब वो savings कहाँ करता हूँ sir LIC में.
Yeah.
How can LIC be saving?
And I think, sir, since you mentioned LIC, let me come to this word called trust, because this is what institutions imbibe in consumers' trust. I think this whole idea of financial inclusion, driving banking to the masses, this word trust becomes very important, sir. As we've grown on the digital payment side, do you think we've solved for trust?
Unfortunately, no. So that's
as a fintech ecosystem.
As a fintech ecosystem, financial sector, including insurance security. This I would like to broaden. The way it is as easy for you to pay or to get an instant loan through a fintech, if you have a challenge, it's not a happy customer, do you resolve that complaint in the same way? Although it is possible, because you might have a digital footprint, but you still say, call my call center. You as in not you, but it's try a journey which is not a perfect journey, and then the consumer is derailed.
Yeah.
And then that 1% consumer who faces trust issues is the one who will influence another 10 people. Arey, no, no, please don't do it. Like, it takes him back to credit card, 90s, actually not 90s, 2000s, that people were avoiding a credit card because there were too much mis-selling in credit cards. You ask anyone, no, how do you use a credit card? I don't. So that mis-selling, then RBI came down heavily. And I don't know whether you remember, and the young generation definitely not remember, there is a thing called RBI introduced MITC,
Yeah.
which I was super happy. I still remember the GM who was there. I'm like, sir, I have to compliment you, including the font size. So it told you exactly what the terms are. And then mis-selling was stopped. Consumer trust in cards grew at another level. So UPI, I don't want to stick to UPI, but financial services has to do more. Regulators have to do a much more to ensure that my, grievance is resolved in the way again I want, whether it's over a voice, over a WhatsApp, over a SMS, over a call. And today's AI makes that possible. Unfortunately, it's not happening.
Sir, I was, and I want to come to the topic of AI. I was at a conference in Georgia, in the US, on AI. And there was one of the largest banks in the US at that conference. And they spoke about this word trust. But they said there are 3 T's, right? Trust is one of them. The first is technology. The second is touch. And they said technology plus touch is equal to trust. So here's a large bank who was a community bank in the US, and they've become now the 7th largest bank. And they said, we want to open more branches, or we want to create more physical touch points, because touch is a very important part of building trust. So today, if we look at banking in India, sir, we've got branch banking and we've got banking on the app. So somewhere we are telling consumers that either you go to a branch to do banking or you bank on the app. But the question is...
Sorry to interrupt. What about the 2 million BCs which you guys have built?
Correct, sir. Well, that in itself is going through a reimagination process, sir.
Yeah,
and we are going through a journey there. But I really wanted to touch on that because exactly to that point, sir, that today you have branches, you have the app, but you also have banking touch points, like you mentioned, BC. Now, somewhere I think, is there an opportunity for us to reimagine a new banking model where to build trust, it's not just about technology, it's also about touch. Now, the question is that if you were, say, touch through branches, the cost of banking will go up. So we have to find economically viable ways. And there are markets who are doing this in the world, sir. So if I look at Global South, I look at Brazil, I look at Africa, I look at Southeast Asia, there's a new generation of digital banks and new digital banking licenses that are coming up, which are adopting this phygital approach, which is not pure digital, but not heavy branch-led banking, solving for cost, but also solving for touch, and deeply leveraging technology. Do you think India is ready for it? Or India needs this kind of new banking model?
So, yes, but I want to go back to what you mentioned, the 3 T's, technology, touch, and trust. I'm not sure, and sorry for my skepticism, whether technology and touch for, let's say, a digital bank will solve for trust. Because I don't use many fintechs, really. I mean, because of a lot of reasons. I use my own banking app for UPI, which I do all the time. I don't borrow, fortunately, or unfortunately, whatever. I haven't borrowed. So, when I talk to people, and with all my friends at RBI who get complaint, I am not sure. Will they focus on consumer first, trust first, or will they focus on technology? Which is the challenge I feel. My request to all the fintechs has always been, do not focus on technology, focus on the consumer.
So I think you're absolutely right that if you have to build trust, then you have to focus on consumer, because at the end of the day, only if the consumer trusts you, will he give you their money. So the question is, one is the policy aspect of it, sir, digital banking licenses, because by definition, even in the latest guidelines that have come on BC and all of that,
Yeah.
The question always remains, there's a concept of a branch and there's a cost associated with that. And when it comes to figuring out alternative ways of touch, then one has to move away from the traditional branch model into a new kind of a touch model,
Yeah.
where we can learn from the world as to where they are doing it. So, for example, sir, as you know, New Bank in Brazil now,
Yeah.
with 1/10 the deposits of the largest bank, is valued higher than the bank. Why?
Yeah.
Because their consumer NPS is greater than 90. So you mentioned about consumer. Here's a company, here's a bank who's so customer obsessed that they look at NPS of not 50, 60, but 90 and above, which means 9 out of 10 customers should be promoting them. They ensure that they over-index on unhappiness index on consumers. So there are examples. There are a lot of examples which banks have not worked on digital, but there are examples where they worked, and especially in the global south. I was in Philippines, sir, 2 weeks back, meeting with one of the digital banks into which New Bank has invested. And I was amazed how digital model they've built, where they've created kiosks with bank ambassadors in retail stores,
Yeah.
where you can go and print your cards, and if you get stuck,
Yeah.
you have someone to talk to. And they've used that model to build trust. The idea is that how, as an overall ecosystem, we can start working both at policy level and at the at the fintech industry level to start imagining that can we solve for unit economics, build for trust, at the
Yeah.
same time take banking to the masses. This is something, sir, we are hoping that we can work on. And given your wisdom, do you think it's the right time to kind of get into an area like this?
You summed it up very well, that this is India's time to go in for that kind of model. And partner, I think I might be using this term 10 times in this podcast, consumer first. If that approach happens, I am sure the regulator themselves will be happy,
Yeah.
because the challenges that you've seen with fintechs and regulators coming down heavily is governance and consumer. So if we have to gradually solve to give regulator the comfort that we can do it, demonstrate it, then that's the way to go.
100%, sir. Before I let you go, just on AI, sir, where do you think are the lowest hanging fruit when it comes to AI for banking for all?
I mean, tell the consumer what they want to know.
Using AI.
Yeah, using AI. I'll give you an example. My brother stays in Noida. His son had a loan. He had gone to US to study. So, I mean, they were trying to figure out what is the remaining loan amount. And it didn't happen. They had to call me. My EA called somebody in the bank. And then only they told her. Simple thing. I mean, can I not just WhatsApp and say loan balance? Or if I had not received my credit card, my debit card, anything and everything. Once you start doing it, that is AI. And the way I want, just want to elaborate on that. The way I want means you don't push me to the app. If I want to do it over a phone, AI can enable in Tamil, Telugu, any language, and answer my query because you have a digital footprint. That is the advantage of digital. So the way I want, how I want, and when I want. And if I've spoken to the AI bot on the phone, and if it dropped, I should be able to pick up that journey. AI is possible over a chatbot.
Yeah.
Mr. Bansal, you asked me this, but the call dropped, the answer is this.
Make it seamless.
Make it seamless.
Yeah. So I think, sir, thank you so much. I think, given your, customer first approach to everything you've built, let me thank you first from the bottom of my heart on behalf of the entire fintech industry for what you've given us, both in terms of Aadhaar, UPI, ULI, and and I think for everyone who's interacted with you, you're an amazing combination of regulation and innovation coming together with the customer at the center. I do hope you can now help us, craft the next revolution in the country, which is around taking banking to the masses. Thank you very much, Rajeshji, for joining us on this podcast, and we look forward to your wisdom as we go forward. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, Dilip,
Thank
for
you, sir.
having me here.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.